Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Primas podcast. I am Cindy. Prima, how's it going? How's it going over there in sunny LA?
Hey, Prima. Yes, indeed. It is summer out here, but it's summer all year long. So that's not a fair question. I don't know what weather feels like out here.
That's true. That's true. And it's very related to what we're going to talk about today because we're going to talk about our connection as humans with nature. And it just reminded me that LA doesn't have any seasons really. And where I'm at in Colorado, there we have all 4 seasons. So yeah, we have snow, heat, dry
Fall.
heat. It's very dry though. Fall and spring. It's just really dry. So
But still, you're
that's a big
right. I
problem.
completely envy that. Every time we go out there and it rains crazy or there's thunderstorms, I'm like, I'm so fascinated. And you're always like, Jess, just calm the hell down. It's just a thunderstorm. But we don't get that out here. Like it's so outside of our norm. Like all I have is summer. Even during winter, during Christmas, like I wear a cute dress. I don't know. I don't own a
Yeah.
raincoat. I have like a nice coat that I bought because I went to New York, but
One time, like a long time ago, it must have been like maybe 8-10 years ago. My mom out here, we were just shopping one time and then I saw this really cute black Michael Kors jacket. And I was like, oh, that's beautiful. But it was like 100 and something. And I'm like, no, I don't need to buy this. Right. My mom's like, I'll get it for you. And I was coming to LA for Christmas and I thought I was cute. And I was wearing that. And it was like 82 degrees at night. And I was like, not sweating, but I was like determined to wear this damn jacket in LA for New Year's. And there we have pictures. We went to like downtown.
oh, I was just
Somewhere
gonna
with my
say for
brothers.
my birthday. It was my
Were
birthday,
you
New
there?
Year's Eve. It was New Year's
Oh,
Eve.
what was that jacket? I don't
Oh,
know.
we do have pictures of it. You said, was
Okay,
I
so it was
there?
that time. Yeah, I don't remember who was there. But yeah. So anyways, I was just wearing like a jacket that never needs to be worn in LA.
I
I
know.
was like, I'm fine. Like posing all hot. Okay. So yeah, primas y primos. So I think me and Jessica both, but I think I'm a little bit more of a mountain man, you know?
Sure.
But we really enjoy nature. For me, it's like something very like therapeutic almost at this point. It's something that I very heavily rely on for feeling better, for calming down. I think like nature is my therapy. When I go out there by myself or with my family, but I really get like a deeper connection when I do go by myself because I get to just like relax, take a deep breath, go at my pace versus like my daughters and so I wanted to talk about our connection or like the lack thereof, our connection to the benefits of nature. We're so disconnected that, and when I say nature, I'm not just talking about going into the mountains. Like I talk about my daughters learned to react to insects, to creatures in and I have that, right? We're just like, oh no. And we have such a negative response to like creatures of any kind, any type of animal. We're very like, I feel like a lot of us think we're above animals and we're also afraid. And we've learned in the past or even currently that when someone is afraid of something, it's because they lack knowledge of that situation, of that thing, of that person. And that's how I feel when even me, when I react like to a moth and I'm just like, that's a beautiful creature that helps our world go around. They're here for a purpose. They're also food for other creatures. And it's just all like the circle of life. And I shouldn't have that reaction. I shouldn't have that like, ew, gross, a rat or a cockroach. Like those are tough ones, right? Because it's like,
And I get it. We were taught that. Like, even I still struggle with that sometimes. And I'll never forget that time because you are way more in tune with nature than I am. Because I'll never forget that hike we went to when we went to Colorado. And I'm like, oh shit, we're like in the legit mountains. Like, we're not in the Hollywood Hills that I'm used to hiking in, right? Because that's the city life. But when we went out there, we actually saw a freaking snake, and you didn't tell me because you knew my reaction. So you saved my life that day. But you're right. Like, I think about that stuff, and I don't even like camping unless like it's an emergency. Like for fun, I don't go out and camping because I'm just like, what the hell's the point? Like a bear can eat me, like I have these crazy scenarios in my head. But you're right. That's that disconnect that I think a lot of people like myself just struggle with, because it's just like, I don't want to sleep outside. Like I want to sleep in my comfortable bed. Or if I see something gross that I don't want to be around, I think before my reaction used to be like, oh, well, just shoo it away or do this or that. But since we have our daughters, it shows us that, well, they're learning from our reaction. And I also don't want her to be like that. Like sometimes we see lizards come up on our driveway. And I think in the past, she'd always be like, oh, lizard, and like run for safety, And now it's just like, oh, look, a lizard, like, hi, lizard. And she like waves at it, And it's just like little by little. And even so, like, I'm not going to go touch it and pick it up like I've seen other people do it. But still, it's that like, we're removing that fear aspect in them already, like conditioning them in a sense that we weren't taught. Even when it comes to little baby like spiders or anything, a ladybug, or I don't want to kill it anymore. And I think it took a while for me to get there. I don't know why.
Yeah. That's good though that you're showing your daughter like at least that, what you can, like not to be disrespectful to them. And I know this sounds super hippie, but I mean it in a very like, we're all here for a mission, for a purpose, including other species aside from ours. I don't think our species is superior. I think that we might be higher up in the food chain because we have cognitive abilities, meaning that we can reason, we can plan, we can organize. Where other animals, well, there are some like apes and orangutans that are extremely smart and that can also do a lot of planning, but not to the level of us. And I'm not saying that because that like we're better. It's just that's our species, right? We have these abilities, but every single species has their purpose and ability. No one's here just to like, gross, get out, get out of my way. And so I think that's good that you're doing that. We do the same thing. We watch a lot of like animal shows or like National Geographic or books. I've said this before, but like PBS Kids has this show called Wildcrats, and they're super cool because they go into whatever type of animal they're studying or they're gonna bring up in the episode. They always do it from like a mom and child or mom and offspring relationship. And so it shows us how like the moms have to go and get food and how every species is so vulnerable. Even snakes, like you said, with the snake reaction, the reason why I knew you were going to react, just because I've already taken those reactions and try to work with them and say, you're going into the mountains, there's going to be snakes. There's going to be a lot of wildlife. So like I had to prepare myself, and I've been doing it for years. Because I've had that disconnection. I'm like, I'm out here in the mountains and I'm like, gross. What's that? No. And it was just too stressful. And I wasn't enjoying being in nature, even in the ocean. Like when we're in in California or in Mexico, we're always like, gross, what's that? It's seaweed. Or there's fish. Like it's the ocean. There's going to be fish in the ocean. Like there's just certain things that I'm like, this is our world to share. And the other thing that I tell my daughter, like when we do see species that could potentially be a threat, the only time that a species would be threatening, and they explain those in these shows, so she's hearing it from different places, is if you're posing danger. So if you see a snake, give it space. You know how some people mess with animals and then they're just like, they get mad when the animal attacks to defend themselves. Those are the only two reasons that I know of. There might be more, that animals attack is when they're defending themselves, they're hungry, and I was going to say or they're protecting like
their offspring,
defending themselves,
yeah,
right? And their offspring or themselves. Yeah, it's not personal. It's not like tigers are not like F you human. It's just like, I don't know you, bro, I need to protect, and we make it so like, we look down on animals. We feel like they're not as smart, they don't understand. And per our last episode, I'm starting to really make that connection. I feel where I'm trying to communicate to whatever animal I come across, like, I'm not afraid of you because I know that you're not afraid of me. Like, we're good. The other day I saw like a family of deer, and deer are always startled. Like, that's in their nature, like to always be like alert. And we just kind of like ran into each other. And I was like, oh, like it just looked like a fake image, like to see just like five grown deer. And I was just like, it's fine. And then like I was like taking deep breaths and I just kept walking so that I didn't pose a threat. And it was just, I don't know, I felt like I'm just like, hey, it's all good. And if there is a creature that I think might harm me, that I'm like, give it space. Don't go touch the lion. Don't go take a picture with like there's a
Mhm.
lot of stuff that people do that I'm like, it's a wild animal.
Wow, I
It
can't.
doesn't know that you have feelings.
You were hiking when you saw these deers? Or is that just
Hmm.
Colorado that's common for like Colorado? They just like roam around the city.
Yeah. No, not the city, but I wasn't too far. I was by Red Rocks. And
Okay.
so when I don't have too much time, it wasn't Red Rocks Amphitheater, but you'll always catch deer
Mhm.
around there. It's very cute. And that's really close. That's not even that deep. That's like hills and
That's good.
rocks. Yeah.
That's really good. I could imagine you like just like invoking your Ace Ventura, like what we mentioned last week. You just we manifested, and look, it came to you. They didn't run from you. They didn't attack you, and it was just like you guys were one in the same in that moment. That was really beautiful, Prima.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. Like we gotta be more conscious and mindful of the other energies around us. But I do want to play a little devil's advocate. And like, I think it's so natural to us, regardless of our environment, that like, sometimes our kids witness it. And like, I know where I got mine from. My mom would always say, like, just kill everything. And I'm just like, okay, that's how I was for a long time. But sometimes I think it's just in our DNA, like, yeah, that's our environment aspect, but we love psychology and what's nature versus nurture. And I think the nature part of it is like for survival purposes, a lot of our ancestors, needed this survival skill to be the on top of the food chain. And for me, I have no idea why I hate snakes. And I always question that. I was never around a snake, nothing, no one, not one snake has ever bit me. Why do I have such a fear of them? Like, even just thinking about them, I start psyching myself out. I'm like, all snakes need to be removed from the planet. So I'm just like, that came from like ancestry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, back in the day, one of my family members must have had this gene for survival purposes. Like, we were around snakes for whatever reason, and they pose a threat to us. And some of them are venomous. There's actual anacondas, like not like the movie, but there are snakes that could eat us. So, you know what I mean? Like, where I'm trying to get at, like,
You went
survival
with the
purposes
most extreme
here.
snake. You're like, snakes on a plane? Much? Like, what?
I
That was a
just hate
movie.
snakes. I know.
Jessica's like, Jennifer Lopez and Ice Cube, like, literally almost got eaten by that big snake. It's like, all right.
I see like random ass stories that pop up on my feed about like snakes eating alligators, and I'm like, what the heck is like? How did that even happen?
Well, that's survival of the fittest though. But okay, I agree. I agree that we had to develop like an awareness, a level of focus to protect ourselves. Not all snakes are venomous. There's so many species of snakes that aren't. But of course, like you just referenced, if we don't have a connection with nature and then we see a movie about anaconda, we're like, see, what did I say? Don't be going into the woods,
Yeah.
right? Like we just and okay, so I've had a lot of encounters with snakes, and this is why I feel way better in nature now. So every time that I encountered a snake, they are so frightened by a human because they've also learned that we'll shoot you, right? Because we just feel like we're above, that we can just shoot others. And it's just like, that's so crazy to me that like people will do it like just to mess around. And
Yeah, or
there's a
torture
lot of
animals.
stories about
That's a different,
torture
yeah.
animals.
That's a different topic.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's a little, yeah.
That sounds
That's going a little
extreme.
too, like if you get joy, let's just say that real quick. You never know who's listening. If you get joy, no judgment. This is just what we learned in psychology. Out of harming animals, there's something deeper wrong, because that's not a natural reaction. You know, our natural instincts for us to keep surviving is to like see others with respect, not just like, they're we're
Or
gonna hurt them and we're getting
remorse.
pleasure out of it.
Yeah, you're lacking
Yeah,
remorse.
that's
That's it.
crazy.
Because the animal's going to be screaming, and if you've ever heard an animal in pain, it doesn't sound nice. So that alone, it should it should make your remorse kick in. And a lot of sociopaths and psychopaths lack remorse, and that's a huge correlation. But yeah, see, we're going totally off topic. We're trying to be like positive and yeah.
But it still pertains to nature, you know, because it's I think it's more of a natural reaction for you to see something moving and you're like, and you're like,
Mhm.
shit, why did I kill that? That's not cool. But now you're trying to protect yourself. It's a little evolutionary, right? You're
Yeah.
like seeking animals to hurt. That's a little different, guys. Google it. It's
Yeah.
trippy. It just goes deeper into like maybe those parts of the brain aren't really, you know, like the part of the brain that has to do with emotions, right? And sociopaths, they lack that. So to them, hurting something else like an animal. Why are we laughing about this? I like how we started talking about sociopaths.
Because we're so
so crazy. Yeah.
It's like like
no judgment.
Yeah. It's making me a little uncomfortable because this isn't what I plan to like discuss. And now we're going into a different like waters, and I don't want to go there because it's not related to what we're talking about.
Okay.
Making me uncomfortable. Yeah, I get it.
Did you know that people are like thinking about like their cousin who like messes with rats, or like, dang, I knew that shit about Johnny, bro. Some's not there. No, I'm just fine. Okay. So oh yeah, so like most animals like deer, even bobcats, I've only run into one. Those are scary. That's just a huge cat. Like mountain lions or like bobcats or like just whatever, they're just that one scared the shit out of me. That one I'm like, just walk back, it's gonna be fine.
One?
I was ready. Yeah.
Like how close was it to you?
Well, the thing is though, like if we're around deer and if deer have the smallest offspring, they're hunting. And this was in the evening. Like also they don't come out until evening, darker, like they're nocturnal. So if you're in a place where there's wildlife that comes out to hunt at night, come on, like there's people that know how to like navigate the wild without doing that. I'm not at that level. I'm just like just a regular ass hiker. But yeah, so I've encountered just like the craziest shit has been just like deer and snakes. But the snakes always, they see me and I see them and I go into like this quick panic and like, stop, everything's gonna be okay, just keep walking. Because there's different positions that they do with their body when they are like trying to like attack or whatever. And I've studied it because like if I run into a snake, I'm like, oh shit, let me Google and find out what that was. Most snakes have never been venomous that I ran into. And they just literally like go, like they're coming this way and they're like, oh shit. And then they like, it's like they're just as scared, I guess, is what I want to say. And a lot of people think like snakes are evil. And I'm like, we're humanizing the snake. And I feel like that comes from the Bible, because how do we know they're like, we don't know what they're thinking, you know? And they're just like, no, they're evil. And I'm like, I don't, that's like a human thing.
I know. I'm trying.
Went with.
But that's crazy how you saw bobcat
yeah.
really quick. I had no idea you seen that. And it reminds me of that video. And you're right.
That was bad.
They only, not only, but who knows, right? But that video that was out, I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but there was this guy recording. He was walking backwards and he saw like the offspring of the bobcat. And I was like, oh shit, that to me already, I would have been like, I need to get the F out of here, because that means mom's around somewhere. And sure enough, she just pops out and is like ready to attack him. And
she's like just, what's up, bitch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
because cats,
I know.
Let's talk about cats real quick, because cats, like, I just can never own a cat. I'm more of a dog person, but it's because I feel like cats, I can't understand them. Yeah, and people might be thinking like, that's because you're below them. Like, I feel, yes, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what they're up to. They're above me. Like, they're too much.
Yeah, they're carnivores. So they're always trying to kill you and eat you. That's what they're thinking.
See, like, how the hell did we domestify a cat?
I know.
And then they go out at night sometimes. There's these videos where they used to track the cats. Have you seen them? And they would say like, where did this cat go? And they go to like Central Park or like parks to just like hunt like mice
Mhm.
because it's in their nature. And it's just like, dogs don't hunt at night. That's
Yeah.
not like something they're thinking about. I don't know. I
Dude,
just feel like cats are like
Joe Rogan
aggressive.
does such a good little skit on like vegan cats, but it's like an intro between like vegan cats, and it trips me out. Like it still makes me laugh, but it's so true. Like I don't like, thank goodness I'm allergic to cats because that's always my default. But I also don't understand how people domesticated cats. Like I've seen videos where there's cats that sit on their owner's face at night to suffocate them. And
To
I'm
let
just
them
like,
know who's boss.
yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna let. And it's so sad because Melody always asks me for a cat, like always. She's like, "Mom, can we go to the pet store and buy a cat?" And I'm like,
She gives me cat owner
yeah.
vibes. Totally. And she's like 3. Definitely. Peace
I,
has been asking for a dog forever, but Melody, she's just like, can we get a snake? Like what?
I know. It's just so
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, cats. There's this Nick Swartzen, he's another stand-up comedian. Do you know him? He did like the gay prostitute in Reno 911.
No, maybe I see
And he
him.
was in roller skates.
Is he the
He
guy
was
who
in roller
wears
skates.
short shorts?
Well, the main deputy guy, Lieutenant. Remember Eloy was him for
Yeah,
Halloween?
for Halloween. Okay, I was just gonna say that.
But not him. It's the
Oh,
in
okay.
that show, there was a roller skating gay prostitute. That's Nick Swartzen. Anyways, comedian. He's a stand-up comedian. And he's doing this bit about like dogs compared to cats. And then he goes, if you have a dog, he goes, and someone comes in with a ski mask and like a knife and it's, he means business, the dog's gonna be like, oh no, I'm gonna alert Nick. And he goes, Nick, Nick, Nick. And he starts barking, right? He's like, no, no, no. And then he goes, same scenario, cat. And then so the guy comes in and the cat's like, oh shit, that guy has a ski mask. That guy has a knife or whatever he says. He's just like, and Nick's asleep. He's like, yeah, like getting ready to enjoy the moment. And I'm just like, yeah, that's right. And that was just funny. So look it up. It's on YouTube.
Oh, you gotta send it to
Cats
me.
are different.
I know.
Yeah, I will. Okay, so I wanted to read this thing that I saw online. It said, our society is so disconnected from the natural world that there are people that still do not believe that we are causing harm to the natural world. So, I don't know too much about global warming. I'm not saying it's true or not. I just also believe, I heard a counter argument that our planet is very intelligent, that Mother Nature is very intelligent. So if something like global warming were to be happening, nature is also going to adapt. So that's that argument that I choose. Like I'm a little bit more inclined to, because if we are really destroying the planet through global warming, then we're doing a horrible job. Like we're still using gas powered cars when we can be using natural energy, because there's a business behind it, and then there's the way that we produce a lot of like, I forget what it's called, but like it's in the documentary Cowspiracy, where like all of is it like fossil fuels? I don't know, but like all of these big machines are using up this stuff that's not good for the environment. And so, yeah, so that's my take on that. What do you think?
Well, I think we are killing our planet because we see it. We see it in our oceans. We see it in our forest. We see it how every year it's like things are more extreme than they ever were in our lifetime, right? Because I don't know what things look like in the 60s, but in our lifetime, like, it did used to rain here in LA and now it doesn't. It rains like once or twice a year, which is really sad. And I remember as a kid, they would call it gloomy,
My bad.
gloomy or rainy February or something, right? Because that's where it rained a lot. And I haven't seen it rain like that in a very long time. So there is some shift, I think. And I also believe that, yeah, we're going to adapt. Either people are going to start adapting and the earth is just going to adapt to like what we're throwing at it. But it's just unfortunate because I think if we had more of a connection, why would we want to harm anything? Why is that like, why are we so, okay, well, it's going to happen, or it's not going to happen in my lifetime. So let's not worry about it, leave it for the next generations. But why do we have that mentality? We should have that mentality across the board. Like, let's not do no harm to anything or any living thing, you know? And living things includes plants and trees and things that provide us oxygen. So it's just like, I don't understand that disconnect, you know? So I'm barely getting in tune with it, like you said. I'm not as there as I would like to be, but I was born and raised in a city, you know, and I see the disconnection. Like, I wake up, I go to work, I'm in my car. I'm not out, I don't commute, like I don't go outside, I rarely walk. I go to my work and I used to sit in an office all day, AC. Then I would drive to my gym and then drive home. And this is like a time before Melody, you know? Like, I would literally have to be conscious to make an effort to go out to like Northern California, where I love, and it's a beautiful, beautiful scenery, like the Redwood Forest or Yosemite. But like, for me to be like, you know what, I'm gonna just go lay outside on the grass for a little bit. Or you know what, I'm gonna just go outside and have lunch outside today instead of being indoors. So I see how easy it is for us to be disconnected with like things like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I wanted to say that you mentioned a lot of people might not know, but the reason, like, there, it's very beautiful how our planet, even the sun, like our solar system, and I'm not, this is just stuff that I've done on my own with YouTube and Google, but like, I'm very interested because, again, when my daughter was born, I wanted to teach her like some of these things that, you know, you don't really hear about in school. Like our connection to nature, to the planet. What's our planet about? There's different planets out here, just so that she had a broader view of the world that we're in. It's just like there's a lot going on. And so our planet, from what we know, compared to other planets in our solar system, because it's close to the sun, because it's so, it has water, right? Like there's heat and water, and there's able to be a lot of, like, such a vast majority of life. And so the trees that we have in the world produce our oxygen. If we didn't have trees or plants, not just trees, but like, you know, and I think even those connections, like how nurturing is it that trees just give off um a something that we need to survive. And we don't think that, to me, is very motherly. Or when I do go out into trees, like for me, the biggest connection that I have in nature is like trees and water. And or at least right now. And you know, with trees, it feels like I'm with my elders. There's like so much wisdom, there's so much neutral energy, and there's a lot of research on this. But I don't know, it feels very like nurturing to me that this plant is all it's doing. It's not getting anything in return. It's just giving off oxygen for us to breathe, and for other animals to live in. And I just think that's like so beautiful. And like, that's what I tell my daughter. I'm just like, trees are like moms. Like, look at all of these things that they provide, just because. And for me, that's like, that's radical love. I don't know, I think maybe hippie-ish, but like, that's, I don't know, I just think that's beautiful. So yeah. And water's
Yeah,
another one that's very radical.
I know. Remember when I was hiking the other day and I was like, you know, Prima, like I'm gonna start getting back into it. I'm gonna start working out and doing things, you know, when that I don't have my daughter, I'll be more available to do. And you were like, yeah, just go out and hug a tree when you go on your hike. And I'm like, what do you mean hug a tree? Like, who does that,
Like,
Cindy?
now
Like in
what,
LA, we
Cindy?
don't do that, okay? And you're like, yeah. Just be very nonchalant about it if you want. Just like pretend you're like leaning on it. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And the entire time I was just thinking, do you want me to bust like a superstar moment and just like completely make out with the tree? You're like, okay, now you're not, now you're being dumb, Jess. And I'm just like, but you're right.
Yeah.
It does feel good to just sit out there and with my own thoughts. And I really enjoy hiking by myself for that reason, you know, because I feel like when I'm with a group or other friends, it's just like, okay, we're talking, but we're not really in the moment, you know? And I go, like you mentioned, I go at my own pace. I do what I want. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, actually, I don't want to go all the way up, or maybe I'll just do this a few times, you know, and just go up and down here and just breathing it all in and taking deep breaths and just realigning. So it is a little therapeutic. I'm finding
I
it.
hear the doggy. But we love dogs.
Yeah, it's my neighbor's dog. Can't control him.
Remember when Eloy used to be like, shut that dog? And she's like, I can't. He's like, you can hear that now. But shout out to Eloy. That's our behind the scenes editor. Okay, let me keep going. One of the main problems in our society that has resulted in negative consequences at the expense of the natural world is the concept of ownership of land. So when I'm hiking out here in the United States, there's man-made trails, and I don't know, sometimes I'm like, I want to go this way, I want to go that way. If you're ever hiking in Mexico, or just like in the natural world, like if you guys go to a little area and you find water, and like people will climb those mountains there, it's just so free, because over there it's like that's at your own expense, buddy. Like if you get hurt, that's on you. And here it's like a lawsuit. It's like the state, the county, the park can get sued, right? So I don't know, I always feel like when they say stay out private property or blah 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 blah, and I'm always like, but why do we think we get to own parts of the land, and then it's like only certain people get to own it? You know what I mean? It's just weird. Like ownership of land, of like state parks, state beaches. Like, isn't that for everybody? And I get it. There's also like a lot of tax money that goes to like keep them clean or whatever. But it's like I think if we were taught more about nature and our connection to it, we would just naturally be more respectful. But that's work that takes generations, because it's taken generations for us to get so separate from nature, so it would take a lot of rebuilding of, like you said, like talking to our kids. And maybe if we're not at the level of picking up insects, I want to get there. That's like one of my life journeys, is to be able to pick up grasshoppers and any creature. um and yeah, so I think it starts there, right? It starts with like showing our kids like respect for nature, not being like, ew.
Yeah.
Eh.
I don't know if I'll ever be there. Like I see people do it, like when we're hiking and they're like, look at this lizard, and they just pick it up. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you have the courage to do that? I can't. I'm just like at the point in my life where I'm like, you do you, lizard, and I'm gonna do me. Like we're just not gonna cross paths. That's right.
That's respect.
Yeah. I'm respecting each other's boundaries.
Yeah. One thing that, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say to the land statement is you're right. And I know it's silly, but I feel like we need to like really invoke our Avatar style. Like you've seen that movie, the one with the blue like aliens, and like just the way just the way they live their life. Like I always say that. Like I just want to invoke like my Avatar in me and just appreciate my environment. And even like the way they kill the animal, it was just so beautiful. Like we only had to like, we understand the circle of life, and yeah, we had to do it to eat, but it was just like this little beautiful ceremony, it's just that appreciation. Like yeah, it's gonna happen like this, but like we understand it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna
Or
just
they
do
have
it.
mhm. I'm glad that you brought that up, because they have the tree of like wisdom. Did you see that part? I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember it like it being a tree, and I'm like, yes, like I felt that. And then I don't know if it's the same scene, but they accidentally kill an animal, and she's like pissed.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
like, why, you were being irresponsible, this didn't have to happen.
Yeah.
And that's another way that like the little that I know, that I'm starting to again reconnect with like my roots and like my like indigenous communities, where they saw a lot of animals as gods, and they wore a lot of like out of respect, or out of like different levels, like different tribe levels, or different, just like they showed off with different animals, and like they had a lot of knowledge of animals, like eagles and cheetah. I mean, all sorts of animals. But there's a lot, like I don't think back in the day it was like that. I think it wasn't as morbid. It wasn't like, we're gonna kill you for sport. It's like, we gotta eat. It's not anything more than that, because, and vice versa, right? Like before we had buildings and stuff, like so did animals. And I'm pretty sure every once in a while they ate human. Not once in a while. Pretty sure that was a thing at some point when people lived in huts.
Yeah.
But So yeah, Avatar is a great movie. I need to watch that again. I want to watch it with my baby. Oh, that's a good movie to watch with. We're very emotional.
I know.
What were we watching yesterday? It was like a 10-minute YouTube video.
And you
And we
both started crying.
We were just like, and my daughter was like, I have something in my eye. Like she did that. And I'm like, it's okay. Like I'm getting like teary eyed too. I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, oh no. I used to be the only one around me that used to like, well, I was so embarrassed. Like at movies, I'd be like, oh my God, here it comes. And it was like, pain. Like I felt the pain. And my daughter's like that. So genetics. I don't know if that's a genetic thing, but
I know.
okay. The other thing, oh, I also wanted to say, so people know this, like people who know me know this about me, but like I don't support zoos or like aquariums or that type of stuff. But I don't like push it hard on my daughter because one, I parallel parent. So she lives two different worlds and I'm not trying to be controlling. I'm trying to be accepting and respectful to my daughter and understand that her environments are different, right? And not try to control. And then so people will ask me like, oh, let's go to the park or let's go to the zoo or something. And I'm just like, you guys can take my daughter if you'd like, but I'm not going. And that's another thing that really hits. Like if I see an animal that's caged up, that's a hard one for me. I feel like we've domestified dogs so much because I know at one point they were wild animals, like right, and they started to like interbreed. But yeah, I can't do it. It hurts to see a shark in a tank or the whales, like all of those stories from like SeaWorld, or elephants. And I'm not talking about like rescue animals, I'm talking about when it's become a business. And I don't know, for our amusement, that's another piece of like ownership, right? Like that's an animal we could just put him in a cage and charge people to watch it. Like, I don't know. It's like, who gives you that right? Like that's crazy. Or pandas or animals that are going extinct. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's another one for me.
And I see their argument. Their argument is to prevent the animal from going extinct. And I think originally that's how it started off, but somewhere down the line, like always, it came to money. They're like, oh well, we can really like make a lot of money off this. And
let's get a tiger. Let's get
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I know you're not like into watching shows, but like the Tiger Kingdom or Tiger, what was his name? The tiger guy, he was on for a little bit.
Tiger King, I think.
Tiger King,
I heard
yeah,
a lot
there you
about
go.
him. I may not watch shows, but I know a little bit.
Yeah, and in that documentary, he shows that like, and they give so many crazy statistics where you can see a tiger and they really only profit off the cubs. And once they get bigger and if they're aggressive, they'll kill them off. And they don't care because like they show the revenue of like how much these tigers make them, and a month is like thousands of dollars. So I'm just like, it's just a business at the end of the day. And maybe the intent was to save certain species that were gonna go extinct, but that's not what it is today. Because and then there's other documentaries like Blackfish, which talks about the killer whales in SeaWorld. Not SeaWorld. Is it SeaWorld? Yeah, SeaWorld, the Orlando one and San Diego. And I can't believe like what they would do to those animals. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Well, the biggest thing with that one, with Blackfish, is an orca is really smart. It's really intelligent and it needs to feed off of its natural environment. So when you put a large animal like that in a tank, in a confined, it becomes depressed because it's an intelligent, like it's just able to produce more emotions. I don't know what it is, because I feel the same way. My theory about red meat is I don't consume it because I think these are intelligent animals that were now again became a business. Like so cows. It's like overconsumption, right? It's not like a natural thing. It's a business. So it's like mass production. So they stress the cows out, they stress the pigs out, and then we're eating that meat. And I'm just like, what happens to our bodies when we get stressed out? It releases it's deadly because it's so consistent, but like it releases all of these chemicals that over time will eventually like depress our central nervous system, our organs, and we can die. And a lot of us do die from stress. We don't associate it that way.
Correct.
Right? Like we think, oh, well, I got a heart attack. Like, wow. you didn't just get a heart attack, or
Mhm.
kidney failure. And it's just like over time, after so much stress in whatever different place, like you're going to weaken all of yourself. And then so you won't be able to fight something like a heart attack or something like,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I feel like a heart attack is more of an artery clogging thing, right? So cancers is a good example.
Yeah. And just not the other day, it had to be last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of those factories, slaughterhouses out here, in commerce area. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, my grandpa used to. Yeah.
Yeah, in the commerce area. So it's like right the neighboring city of East LA. And there was one where like 30 cows escaped, and they saved like 3 of them, and they were roaming down the street, and all
How
my
did they
vegan or
escape?
vegetarian friends were like posting like, yeah, they did it. Like I don't know if like I obviously there's a lot of activists out there like always like trying to help the animals, but I don't know, you just saw like a herd of 30 cows just roaming down like East LA, and everyone was like videotaping it, and like, yeah, all my vegan and vegetarian friends, like that's how I saw it, because they were all like reposting it. They're like, yeah, like don't eat animals. And I just like, yeah, that's just like what started my like vegan journey, where it's all about energy and receiving it and giving it. And I just don't want that in my household anymore. I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. It's
And
tough though.
it's not just meat with cows, or even pigs. It's also like their fat that they use for so many
Yeah.
different
The
things, and
dairy.
the dairy. So the
Mhm.
dairy too, like I think much like with women, who knows, it's probably different, but like how women, we lactate when we're around the time that we're having our children's, because we're supposed to feed them, right? And so it's the same, it's very similar to cows, where they remove the calves from their moms. And so again, that produces stress, because the cat, like these are animals that need to be with their moms until a certain amount of age, for survival. And we just treat them like it's your dollar sign. And so yeah, so it's not just the meat. I just wanted to say that, because I'm like,
No, you're right.
don't,
And all
it's
these like factors
everywhere.
that what we mentioned are layers, so there's not a one solution that fits all. It's like all these things that have led us to a huge disconnect in our environment, in Mother Nature.
Mhm. So, okay, I wanted to say something. It's a little controversial, but I'm going to go ahead and say, because it just touched me. And I'm getting all of this from humansandnature.org.
Mhm.
There was this paper written that was called The Disconnection Between Humans and Nature. The current generations of the West tend to consider themselves as separate from nature, just as Western culture has tended to since the Christianization of Europe. The culture of the West distanced itself from nature, taking humanity out of nature and nature out of humanity. While there are more reasons to why and how this happened, a major point in Christianity was the concept of the earth belonging to mankind. In the First Testament, it is stated that the natural world, animals included, were made for Adam and Eve to consume and live off of. So I denounced my religion. We grew up Catholic, like hardcore. Like my mom was, we were just always in the church. And my mom separated herself from that when the priest stories started to come out about, like, remember that happened? We were still in
Mhm.
LA when that happened. And she was heartbroken when the news was out that the priests were raping and molesting all of these little boys. She was pissed. I mean, she had a real, like, she gave herself to the church. And so when that happened, she started to question, like, wait, she just questioned everything that she thought the religion stood for. So after that, she kind of let us decide, which is not common in a Mexican first generation family. But my mom was like, you guys decide. Because here I thought I was following the right path. And then it turns out that there's some shit going on and no one's being held accountable. And then she started to learn about the power that the religion had. And so she was just kind of like, if you guys want to do some religious stuff, do it. I'm not pushing it on you. Like, do what you guys got to do. Don't listen to me, because clearly, she was just so hurt. And I feel very negatively towards how women are depicted in the Bible, and how I was taught also, like from the Catholic Church, like how women are supposed to be submissive and play their role and be a good wife and bear children, all this stuff. Or even just how the Virgin Mary you know, like that idea that like she would never have sexual intercourse. This was a miracle sent to her from, I don't know the real story, but I'm like, that set us up. So like as a woman, I'm like, what the fuck? So yeah, when I read that, I was just like, huh, you would never think how some of the things that we practice today stem back from that time, or just different influences, you know. But for us, we're living in a time where mankind is the ruler. And it's that idea like, no, I think we should know better. I don't think we rule. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Reason 105, I don't follow religion. It's
I
just so
love when you say that.
sad. I know. It's so sad. It really, what did you say last week when something rattled your feathers? What was it? Never mind. I
I
was
don't
trying
know.
to copy you. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it because then
Grind my
my vein,
gears.
yeah, there you go. Grinds my gears. I don't want to talk
Oh,
about it
that's
because then
from
the
Family
big
Guy.
vein in my forehead is going to come out.
Starts pulsating. So
Mhm.
we wanted to end with like some solutions, like how can we, if we're not so connected to nature, or if our families aren't, or if we're just like gross, I don't go outside. We wanted to encourage you because there's a lot of personal benefits that you can gain from being outside. So you don't have to go into the mountains either. You can go to a park, you can go to a lake, a beach, whatever nature source you have around you. I can't go to the beach, but I'm out here because I'm in Colorado. So I just wanted to bring up that sunlight provides natural vitamin D, and it's a vitamin that if we have a deficiency in, it puts us in a worse mood. It causes depression and anxiety. And so people who aren't feeling so well, if you guys go outside for like 15 minutes, you'll get enough vitamin D and it'll make you feel better. So that's a big one. We get vitamin D for free if we're outside. And you only have to be outside for 15 minutes. So if you can do that longer or take walks, it would be lovely. Um, Jess, do you have any? Because I'll keep going all
Yeah,
night.
I
Hey,
have
this
one.
is my ASMR voice. Can you hear me?
Can you not do that?
I know, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
I wonder how it's gonna sound. Okay, okay.
I was going to say one of my solutions is I took your advice and I went out into nature and I totally made out with a tree and even little humped it for like a second. And it made me feel really in tune. So that's part of my solution is go out
Make
and
love to a tree.
mhm, just show it
That's so
affection.
radical. That's so millennial of you. Yes. Um, nature will humble you because there's times I haven't I go a lot by myself, but like before when I used to invite people on hikes with me, that wouldn't normally hike, that I'm like, I'm gonna introduce them to my magical world. And you know, sometimes it would hit, sometimes it wouldn't. And so some people will think that they're above nature. And I think it's so nature is so intelligent that it has a way of humbling you, like the beach. Like, have you ever played in the waves at the beach
Mhm.
and just got tossed over and like swallowed a lot of like seawater?
Yeah, I
That's a
grew up.
horrible experience.
Mhm.
No, but there's just people that'll be like, whatever. And it's just like,
Oh,
look at this vast, beautiful living thing, this water that moves. Like, I think it's just so amazing. And so the other way nature will humble you is, you know how flowers have like little spiky thorns,
mhm.
or trees sometimes during, well, at least over here, during different times of the year, it'll fill up with different creatures, or you know, where you can't just touch a tree, like something, you'll get something in your hand, or you know what I mean. um or when you're walking, there's rocks, vines, and like you have to pay attention. So I think it's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing when you're able to connect all of your senses in a natural way, because that's what meditation is also, right? When you're just kind of like, you're just relaxing and connecting. And I feel that when I'm walking in nature, like I have to pay attention because it's showing me respect. So it's also really fun for like kids to play in. And if your kids are not used to it, don't force them. Also be very patient because they don't know, like it's all new to them. Um, yeah. I get a lot of compliments when I'm with my daughter, and I'm just kind of like, I've had this child out here since before she could walk. This like, it's not like we just came out one day, like, you know, they see us and she's like jumping from tree to tree or like doing some crazy stuff. And I'm like, we've been doing this for 5 years, you know, and who taught her? Someone that was doing that before. So there's just, I don't like that comparison that people make, you know, because it's just like, this is the first time your child is ever out here. Or this happens and we're on live. It's all good. Yeah, so like this happens. It's a very natural reaction for anybody to like feel uncomfortable in nature. And so like be very patient with yourself. Be very open to the experience. If you're going by yourself, try taking music. When I take music, sometimes I'll just put like one earphone on my way up maybe. And then on my way down, like I'll remove it.
Look who showed up.
Hey, that's the OG Prima. You got to say something.
Hey, girl. What's up, Cindy?
That's Prima Mel. We're just here recording the Primas podcast. What a beautiful surprise.
Oh, wow. I'm the special guest appearance. What? The guest? Wow.
Surprise.
Yeah. I specifically told her, don't bother me, Melissa, until 6:00. And look at who shows up.
Mel, you came in the perfect time. What do you... Oh, that's cute.
I know, now I have the small hair like you guys.
You have a mom do.
Oh, we do all kind of have this. I need to cut mine. Just back here, you guys. Mel, what is a pro or like a benefit? This episode is about how we're like not so connected to nature and how can we be? We're towards the end of the episode, like solutions wise, because I know you love to be in nature too.
Any free time that you have, honestly, I feel like sometimes we're so like, oh, we got to do this in life, we have to do a schedule, but honestly, I feel like if you just take your time to just go out in nature and or just even out in general and just take up some time, free time that you may have, that really helps, to be honest. I think we're all busy with our lives right now. And I think you guys mentioned in your season 3, episode 1, I did listen to that episode that you guys talked about how lives are so chaotic right now. And I feel like a lot of us are going through that. But yeah, I just feel like just honestly, just going out whenever you have free time, just to honestly, just do whatever you can.
You walk literally just up and down your block sometimes, right? Like when you're recording yourself.
Yeah,
like that. And it's so beautiful because I can see the palm trees, like when you're walking. And I have a feeling it's in your block because there's like a lot of palm trees. And I'm like, see, she's not going into the mountains. She's just walking around her block. And there's a lot of trees in LA.
Right.
Even, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, ladies? We were literally on our way out. I was just telling people like, go outside.
That's all I can think. Oh, you know what I started doing? Essential oils. Have you guys like got into like lavender? I think that even that, like putting some lavender scent on to just escaping from some like mental state of mind that you might be in. That'll be a good idea.
You know what? We didn't talk about like plants and herbs and spices.
Okay.
And you're right. Like there's a lot of medicine and intelligence in plants. So that's one where it could be something natural. Do you make your own?
No, I've been wanting to, but no, it's the process is too long. And now mom life, whole life now. I did before. In quarantine, I remember last year when we were like, oh yeah, we're going to do the podcast and stuff like that. I wanted to. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do essential oils and stuff like that. But Nate.
I know, huh? I know, me too. I was like, I'm going to start my own like skincare line. So it's not a big deal. Like we all had big old plans. Yeah. Aww. Yeah. So there's a lot of medicinal plants. A lot of our food is medicine, and that's tied to Mother Nature. And follow me on my Instagram. I think it's SI_BEE5, something like that. Or follow us on the Primas podcast. But I post a lot about how food can be used to your benefit with regards to like energy. Yeah. Anything else?
Man, I missed the
Mel, you got to come back on.
Yeah, for sure.
No.
Dude.
You got to come back on. Maybe we could talk about like how mom like don't have kids. No, just fine.
You know what? You guys need like a do not disturb thing because I didn't know. I thought you were done. You didn't say. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. This is just my open apartment.
If it's not peace.
Yeah.
If it's not Melissa. No.
I'll bring the baby on.
This is a family podcast.
Yeah.
You will?
I'll bring her on. I'll show you guys. So you guys are doing videos now? That's awesome. Well, we'll talk after.
Yeah. So you're going to come out on YouTube. Is that okay? Do we need to do
No,
I know.
You're fine.
Okay. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Remember that there is a lot of wisdom and there's a lot of nurturing and benefits that you can get from being outside. You don't have to go into the mountains if that's not your thing. Just hug a tree. Be careful that there's no ants on it or other stuff on it.
Great topic,
Oh,
Prima.
yeah.
I
All
love
right,
you,
guys.
and everyone
Hug
have a great
tree. I love
day.
you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Primas podcast. This is what they do also.